Okay, it's Michael and good morning everyone. So today we continue our lesson with the regulation of blood pressure and blood volume, okay, by the renin angiotensin aldosterone system, also known as the RAAS. Okay, so after this we continue with the regulation of the blood pH as well. Okay, so now when it comes to this regulation of blood pressure and blood volume, okay, they are interrelated with each other, the blood pressure and blood volume. When the blood volume decreases, the blood pressure will increases, okay, vice versa. And apparently this blood pressure or blood volume, okay, are regulated by this RAAS. Okay, so we have this diagram here. Okay, so this is the basic diagram. Now let's take a scenario here. Okay, when the sodium ion in the blood decreases below the normal level, right? Now this can occur like in excessive sweating, like in a marathon or after a vigorous exercise. Okay, so because after vigorous exercise, what happens? You will sweat, and then the sweat, it will cause the loss of sodium ions as well as water from your body. So the loss of the sodium ions through the sweat will result in the decrease of sodium ion in the blood below the normal level. When that happens, again the blood volume will fall, right? Then the fall of the blood volume will cause the blood pressure to decrease. Okay, now what happens after this is the juxtaglomerular apparatus, okay, which you know is in the walls of the afferent arteriole, right? So this juxtaglomerular apparatus is stimulated to secrete renin, right? This renin is an enzyme and also known as angiotensinogenase. So this renin will activate, okay, you can see this renin here, which is being secreted by this juxtaglomerular apparatus. This renin here will activate this renin angiotensin aldosterone pathway, RAAS. Okay, so how does this renin activates this RAAS? Okay, this renin apparently will convert, okay, the angiotensinogen which is being secreted by the liver. Okay, renin will convert this angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1, right? Okay, so let me rephrase. Renin from the juxtaglomerular apparatus will convert angiotensinogen from the liver into angiotensin 1. Now this angiotensin 1, right, will be converted into angiotensin 2 by ACE, which is angiotensin converting enzyme, right? In the exam, do not write ACE, please write angiotensin converting enzyme. Right, now we have this angiotensin 2, right? So this angiotensin 2 will cause these three things here, right? So first, this angiotensin 2 will trigger vasoconstriction, right, of the blood vessel. So now when the size or the diameter of the blood vessel decreases because of the vasoconstriction, what happens to the blood pressure inside the blood vessel? Of course, it will increase, right? So angiotensin triggers vasoconstriction to increase the blood pressure, and then this angiotensin 2, all right, stimulates the hypothalamus to activate the thirst reflex. Okay, so this will cause thirst sensation, right? And this angiotensin 2 also stimulates the posterior pituitary gland to secrete ADH, right? So ADH we have already discussed in our previous video, the role of the ADH, which is it causes the active reuptake or reabsorption of water from the distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct into the peritubular capillaries, right? That's why ADH is also known as an antidiuretic hormone. And then this angiotensin 2 also stimulates the secretion of aldosterone from the adrenal gland. Okay, so this adrenal gland secretes the aldosterone. Now, this aldosterone stimulates the distal convoluting tubule and collecting ducts, right, to increase the sodium ions, chloride ions, and water reabsorption into the peritubular capillaries. So apparently, aldosterone has similar effect with the ADH. Now, after reabsorption of sodium ions, chloride ions, and water, right, into the peritubular capillaries, the blood pressure, blood volume, and sodium ions in the blood will increases back to the normal level, right? So now, from this mechanism here, okay, we can see that negative feedback mechanism will adjust the sodium ion back to its normal level. Betul kan? Negative feedback mechanism ni dia kembalikan keadaan asal tu. Dia kembalikan sesuatu keadaan tu yang ekstrim tu kepada keadaan asal. Okay, sebarang perubahan akan kembali kepada keadaan asal. Right? So negative feedback mechanism, it tries to adjust any deviation, alright, from the original states of your body. Okay, so initially the sodium ion was in a normal level, and then it was decreases in the blood, right? So negative feedback mechanism will try to readjust the sodium ions level in the blood, all right, from being decreased into increases back to its normal level. Right, so that is the negative feedback mechanism on adjusting the sodium ions level in the body. And then another thing is I mentioned about the reabsorption, right, of chloride ions here. Right, now this is important, right? Reabsorption or uptake of these chloride ions, right, are important to maintain the electrochemical balance inside the peritubular capillaries, because we have the increase of reabsorption of the sodium ions. So when we have the increase, all right, reabsorption of sodium ions, it must be balanced with the negative ion, which is the chloride ions. Okay, now what happens when the sodium ions in the blood increases above normal, right, such as the excess intake of salt, for example? So the blood volume will increases, okay, causing the blood pressure to increase. So the juxtaglomerular apparatus, okay, is again stimulated to secrete less renin. All right, less renin will be secreted. So again, the renin, it plays its role, converts the angiotensinogen, okay, which is from the liver, into angiotensin 1. And then the angiotensin 1 is converted into angiotensin 2 by the ACE, which is angiotensin converting enzyme. Right, so with less angiotensin 2, what happens? The blood vessels is dilated. I mean to say, the width, diameter of the blood vessel increases. Right, so when the blood vessels dilated, this will decrease the secretion of ADH and aldosterone from the adrenal cortex. So this will lead to the decrease in blood pressure. Right, so when there's a decrease in the blood pressure, there will be, when there is less secretion of ADH and aldosterone, right, when there is less secretion or decreased secretion of ADH and aldosterone, this will lead to a decrease in blood pressure, and then it will also lead to the less reabsorption of sodium ions, chloride ions, and water. Okay. So when there is less reabsorption or less uptake of sodium ions, right, what happens to the sodium ions level in the blood? It will decreases back to its normal level. Okay, so that's about it on the RAAS. Now let's discuss about regulation of blood tissue. Regulation of blood pH or tissue fluid pH. Okay, so blood pH is about 7.4, right, which is close to neutral. Okay, and apparently this our blood pH is regulated by our tubular cells of the proximal tubule, distal tubule, right, and the collecting duct. Okay, so picture here, this is our tubular cell. Okay, when I say tubular cell, it can be referred to the proximal or distal. Okay, so this can be tubular cell or collecting duct cell as well. Okay, this is the peritubular capillaries, and this is the lumen of the renal tubule, right? The lumen of the renal tubule. So now, let's take one scenario here when the blood pH drops below the normal level, right? Blood pH drops below normal level, meaning to say the blood becomes slightly acidic. Okay, becomes acidic, meaning to say there are accumulation or there are excess of hydrogen ions in the blood. So how can we have excessive hydrogen ions? It may because of, or it may be due to the active metabolism, right? So here I wrote, okay, when blood pH drops below the normal level, which is due to the excessive hydrogen ions produced during metabolism or cell metabolism, okay, during cell metabolism. So what happens? Dissociation of carbonic acids. You can see this carbonic acid here dissociates, all right, in the tubular cell, right, inside the tubular cells into hydrogen ions and hydrogen carbonate ions. Okay, this one you have learned already earlier, right? Dissociation of carbonic acids. Okay, so now we have hydrogen ions and hydrogen carbonates ion or bicarbonates ions here. So what happens? This tubular cell will pump these hydrogen ions from the dissociation of the carbonic acid into the lumen of the renal tubule, right? The hydrogen ions, okay, and then we combine with the hydrogen phosphate ion to form dihydrogen phosphate, and this dihydrogen phosphate will be secreted in the urine. Okay, this dihydrogen phosphate also may combine with ammonium ions in the renal tubule and excreted as ammonium salts in the urine. Okay, so on this part checked. Now we have the hydrogen carbonate ions here. Now these hydrogen carbonate ions will be pumped out, okay, by the tubular cells. Now after the hydrogen carbonate ions is already pumped out from the tubular cell, right, this hydrogen carbonate ion will diffuse into the peritubular capillaries. Okay, you can see here, this is the hydrogen carbonate ions that is already diffused, that was already pumped out from the tubular cell and then diffused into the peritubular capillaries. So these hydrogen carbonate ions will combine with the excess hydrogen ions in the blood, okay, and this will raise the blood pH to the normal level. Betul kan? Okay, so again let me rephrase. The hydrogen carbonate ions, right, that diffuse into the peritubular capillaries will combine with the excess hydrogen ions to form carbonic acid, okay, to form carbonic acid in the peritubular capillaries, and this will raise the blood pH to the normal level, right? Why does the blood pH raise to the normal level here? Because the excess hydrogen ions is already combined with the bicarbonate ions. So the concentration of hydrogen ions in the peritubular capillaries decreases. So when the concentration of these hydrogen ions decreases, the blood pH will raise or increase to a normal level. Okay, now the other excess of hydrogen ions in the blood also, okay, will be transported actively right, or the active transport of the excess hydrogen ions also occurs from the peritubular capillaries into the renal tubule. So can you see that there are two ways how the excess of hydrogen ions are being decreased from the peritubular capillaries. First, by combining with the bicarbonate ions, and then second, by active transport into the lumen of the renal tubule. Okay, now what happens when the blood pH is higher than normal level, right? So the tubular cells, okay, this tubular cell will not pump hydrogen ions into the renal tubule, so this will not occur. Okay, and then when this does not occur, okay, when hydrogen ion is not pumped into the tubular cell, the secretion of bicarbonates into the peritubular capillaries also inhibited or does not occur. Okay, so when blood pH is higher, meaning to say there are excess of hydroxide ions here, right? Betul kan? pH tinggi maksudnya ada banyak OH negatif di sini, right? So the hydroxide ions, right, from the peritubular capillaries will be actively transported to the lumen of the renal tubule, right? So the excess hydroxide ions from the peritubular capillaries will be directly transported actively into the lumen of the renal tubule, and this will decrease the blood pH to the normal level. Okay, so that's it for today's lesson. Okay, happy studying. Bye.